أي صورة ما شاء ركبك كلا بل تكذبون بالدين وإن عليكم لحافظين كراما كاتبين يعلمون ما تفعلون إن الأبرار لفي نعيم إن الأبرار لفي نعيم إن الأبرار لفي نعيم وإن الفجار لفي جحيم يصلونها يوم الدين وما هم عنها بغائبين وما أدراك ما يوم الدين ثم ما أدراك ما يوم الدين يوم لا تملك نفس لنفس شيئا
جس دن یہ زمین دوسری ہی زمین بنا دی جائے گی اور آسمان بھی بدل دیے جائیں گے اور سب لوگ اللہ کے سامنے نکل کھڑے ہوں گے جو یکتا ہے بڑا زبردست ہے. اور اس دن تم گناہگاروں کو دیکھو گے کہ زنجیروں میں جکڑے ہوئے ہیں، ان کے کرتے تارپول کے ہوں گے اور ان کے چہروں کو آگ لپٹ رہی ہوگی. یہ اس لیے کہ اللہ ہر شخص کو اس کے اعمال کا بدلہ دے. بے شک اللہ جلد حساب لینے والا ہے. جس دن ہر شخص اپنی کی ہوئی نیکی کو موجود پا لے گا اور اپنی برائی کو بھی دیکھ لے گا تو آرزو کرے گا کہ اے کاش اس میں اور اس برائی میں دور کی مسافت ہو جاتی. اور اللہ تم کو اپنے غضب سے ڈراتا ہے اور اللہ اپنے بندوں پر نہایت مہربان ہے. اس روز کافر اور پیغمبر کے نافرمان آرزو کریں گے کہ کاش ان کو دھسا کر زمین برابر کر دی جاتی اور وہ اللہ سے کوئی بات چھپا نہیں سکیں گے. کاش ظالم لوگ جو بات عذاب کے وقت دیکھیں گے اب دیکھ لیتے کہ سب طرح کی طاقت اللہ ہی کو ہے اور یہ کہ اللہ سخت عذاب کرنے والا ہے. اس دن کفر کے پیشوا اپنے پیروں سے بیزاری ظاہر کریں گے اور دونوں عذاب الہی دیکھ لیں گے اور ان کے آپس کے تعلقات منقطع ہو جائیں گے. یہ حال دیکھ کر پیروی کرنے والے حسرت سے کہیں گے کہ اے کاش ہمیں پھر دنیا میں جانا نصیب ہو تاکہ جس طرح یہ ہم سے بیزار ہو رہے ہیں اسی طرح ہم بھی ان سے بیزار ہوں. اس طرح اللہ ان کے اعمال حسرت بنا کر دکھائے گا اور وہ دوزخ سے نکل نہیں سکیں گے۔ کاش تم ان کو اس وقت دیکھو جب یہ دوزخ کے کنارے کھڑے کیے جائیں گے اور کہیں گے کہ اے کاش ہم پھر دنیا میں لوٹا دیے جائیں تاکہ اپنے پروردگار کی آیتوں کی تکذیب نہ کریں اور مومن ہو جائیں۔ ہاں، یہ جو کچھ پہلے چھپایا کرتے تھے آج ان پر ظاہر ہو گیا ہے، اور اگر یہ دنیا میں لوٹائے بھی جائیں تو جن کاموں سے ان کو منع کیا گیا تھا وہی پھر کرنے لگے۔ کچھ شک نہیں کہ یہ جھوٹے ہیں اور کہتے ہیں کہ ہماری جو دنیا کی زندگی ہے بس یہی زندگی ہے اور ہم مرنے کے بعد پھر زندہ نہیں کیے جائیں گے۔ اور کاش تم ان کو اس وقت دیکھو جب یہ اپنے پروردگار کے سامنے کھڑے کیے جائیں گے، وہ فرمائے گا کیا یہ دوبارہ زندہ ہونا برحق نہیں؟ تو کہیں گے کیوں نہیں، ہمارے پروردگار کی قسم بالکل برحق ہے۔ اللہ فرمائے گا اب کفر کے بدلے جو دنیا میں کرتے تھے عذاب کے مزے چکھو۔ جن لوگوں نے اللہ کے روبرو حاضر ہونے کو جھوٹ سمجھا وہ گھاٹے میں آ گئے، یہاں تک کہ جب ان پر قیامت ناگہاں آ موجود ہوگی تو بول اٹھیں گے کہ ہائے اس کوتاہی پر افسوس ہے جو ہم نے قیامت کے بارے میں کی، اور وہ اپنے اعمال کے بوجھ اپنی پیٹھوں پر اٹھائے ہوئے ہوں گے۔ دیکھو جو بوجھ یہ اٹھا رہے ہیں بہت برا ہے۔ اور کاش تم ان ظالم یعنی مشرک لوگوں کو اس وقت دیکھو جب موت کی سختیوں میں مبتلا اور فرشتے ان کی طرف ہاتھ بڑھا رہے ہوں کہ نکالو اپنی جانیں، آج تم کو ذلت کے عذاب کی سزا دی جائے گی اس لیے کہ تم اللہ پر جھوٹ بولا کرتے تھے اور اس کی آیتوں سے سرکشی کرتے تھے۔ اور دوزخی بہشتیوں سے گڑ گڑا کر کہیں گے کہ کسی قدر ہم پر پانی بہاؤ، یا جو رزق اللہ نے تمہیں عنایت فرمایا ہے اس میں سے کچھ ہمیں بھی دو۔ وہ جواب دیں گے کہ اللہ نے یہ دونوں نعمتیں کافروں پر حرام کر دی ہیں جنہوں نے اپنے دین کو تماشا اور کھیل بنا رکھا تھا اور دنیا کی زندگی نے ان کو دھوکے میں ڈال رکھا تھا۔ تو جس طرح یہ لوگ اپنے اس دن کے آنے کو بھولے ہوئے اور ہماری آیتوں سے منکر ہو رہے تھے، اسی طرح آج ہم بھی انہیں بھلا دیں گے۔ اور ہم نے ان کے پاس کتاب پہنچا دی ہے جس کو علم و دانش کے ساتھ کھول کھول کر بیان کر دیا ہے، اور وہ مومن لوگوں کے لیے ہدایت اور رحمت ہے۔ کیا یہ لوگ اس کے مضمون ظاہر ہونے کے منتظر ہیں؟ جس دن اس کا مضمون ظاہر ہو جائے گا تو جو لوگ اس کو پہلے سے بھولے ہوئے ہوں گے وہ بول اٹھیں گے کہ بے شک ہمارے پروردگار کے رسول حق لے کر آئے تھے، بھلا آج ہمارے کوئی سفارشی ہیں کہ ہماری سفارش کریں، یا ہم دنیا میں پھر لوٹا دیے جائیں کہ جو عمل بد ہم پہلے کرتے تھے وہ نہ کریں بلکہ ان کے سوا دوسرے عمل کریں۔ بے شک ان لوگوں نے اپنا نقصان کیا اور جو کچھ یہ افترا کیا کرتے تھے ان سے سب جاتا رہا۔ اور کاش تم اس وقت کی کیفیت دیکھو جب فرشتے کافروں کی جانیں نکالتے ہیں کہ ان کے چہروں اور پیٹھوں پر مارتے جاتے ہیں اور کہتے ہیں اب آگ کے عذاب کا مزہ چکھو، یہ ان اعمال کی سزا ہے جو تمہارے ہاتھوں نے آگے بھیجی ہیں، اور یہ جان رکھو کہ اللہ بندوں پر ظلم نہیں کرتا۔ اور جس دن اللہ ان کو جمع کرے گا تو وہ دنیا کی نسبت ایسا خیال کریں گے کہ گویا وہاں گھڑی بھر دن سے زیادہ رہے ہی نہیں تھے، اور آپس میں ایک دوسرے کو شناخت بھی کریں گے۔ جن لوگوں نے اللہ کے روبرو حاضر ہونے کو جھٹلایا وہ خسارے میں پڑ گئے اور راہیاب نہ ہوئے۔ پھر ظالم لوگوں سے کہا جائے گا کہ عذاب دائمی کا مزہ چکھو، اب تم انہی اعمال کا بدلہ پاؤ گے جو دنیا میں کرتے رہے۔ اور اے نبی تم سے دریافت کرتے ہیں کہ آیا یہ سچ ہے؟ کہہ دو ہاں میرے رب کی قسم یہ سچ ہے، اور تم بھاگ کر اللہ کو عاجز نہیں کر سکو گے۔ اور اگر ہر ایک نافرمان شخص کے پاس روئے زمین کی تمام چیزیں ہوں تو وہ عذاب سے بچنے کے بدلے میں سب دے ڈالے، اور جب وہ عذاب کو دیکھیں گے تو پچھتائیں گے اور ندامت کو چھپائیں گے، اور ان میں انصاف کے ساتھ فیصلہ کر دیا جائے گا اور ان پر ظلم نہیں ہوگا۔ مومنو یہ نہ سمجھنا کہ یہ ظالم جو کام کر رہے ہیں اللہ ان سے بے خبر ہے، وہ ان کو اس دن تک مہلت دے رہا ہے جبکہ دہشت کے سبب آنکھیں پھٹی کی پھٹی رہ جائیں گی اور لوگ سر اٹھائے ہوئے میدان قیامت کی طرف دوڑ رہے ہوں گے، ان کی نگاہیں خود اپنی طرف لوٹ نہ سکیں گی اور ان کے دل مارے خوف کے ہوا ہو رہے ہوں گے۔ اور لوگوں کو اس دن سے آگاہ کر دو جب ان پر عذاب آ جائے گا، تب ظالم لوگ کہیں گے کہ اے ہمارے پروردگار ہمیں تھوڑی سی مہلت عطا کر تاکہ ہم تیری دعوت توحید قبول کریں اور تیرے پیغمبروں کے پیچھے چلیں۔ تو جواب ملے گا کیا تم پہلے قسمیں نہیں کھایا کرتے تھے کہ تم کو اس حال سے جس میں تم ہو زوال نہیں ہوگا؟ یہ اللہ کی کتاب اور قرآن روشن کی آیتیں ہیں۔ کسی وقت کافر لوگ آرزو کریں گے کہ اے کاش وہ مسلمان ہوتے۔ اور جب ان کافروں سے کہا جاتا ہے کہ تمہارے پروردگار نے کیا اتارا ہے، تو کہتے ہیں پہلے لوگوں کی حکایتیں۔ اے پیغمبر، ان کو بکنے دو، یہ قیامت کے دن اپنے اعمال کے پورے بوجھ بھی اٹھائیں گے، اور جن کو یہ بے تحقیق گمراہ کرتے ہیں ان کے بوجھ بھی اٹھائیں گے۔ سن رکھو کہ جو بوجھ یہ اٹھا رہے ہیں برے ہیں۔ اور جس دن ہم ہر امت میں سے ایک گواہ یعنی پیغمبر کو کھڑا کریں گے، پھر نہ تو کفار کو بولنے کی اجازت ملے گی اور نہ ان کے عذر قبول کیے جائیں گے۔ اور جب ظالم لوگ عذاب دیکھ لیں گے تو پھر نہ تو ان کے عذاب ہی میں تخفیف کی جائے گی اور نہ ان کو مہلت ہی دی جائے گی۔ اور جب مشرک اپنے بنائے ہوئے شریکوں کو دیکھیں گے تو کہیں گے کہ پروردگار، یہ وہی ہمارے شریک ہیں جن کو ہم تیرے سوا پکارا کرتے تھے۔ تو وہ ان کے کلام کو مسترد کر دیں گے اور ان سے کہیں گے کہ تم جھوٹے ہو، اور اس دن اللہ کے سامنے سرنگوں ہو جائیں گے، اور جو طوفان وہ باندھا کرتے تھے سب ان سے جاتا رہے گا۔ جن لوگوں نے کفر کیا اور لوگوں کو اللہ کے رستے سے روکا، ہم ان کو عذاب پر عذاب دیں گے، اس لیے کہ شرارت کیا کرتے تھے۔ اور اعمال کی کتاب کھول کر رکھی جائے گی تو تم گناہگاروں کو دیکھو گے کہ جو کچھ اس میں لکھا ہوگا اس سے ڈر رہے ہوں گے، اور کہیں گے ہائے شامت، یہ کیسی کتاب ہے کہ نہ چھوٹی بات کو چھوڑتی ہے نہ بڑی کو، کوئی بات بھی نہیں مگر اسے لکھ رکھا ہے، اور جو جو عمل کیے ہوں گے سب کو حاضر پائیں گے، اور تمہارا پروردگار کسی پر ظلم نہیں کرے گا۔ جس روز سور پھونکا جائے گا اور ہم گناہگاروں کو یوں اکٹھا کریں گے کہ ان کی آنکھیں نیلی نیلی ہوں گی، تو وہ آپس میں آہستہ آہستہ کہیں گے کہ تم دنیا میں صرف 10 ہی دن رہے ہو۔ جو باتیں یہ کریں گے ہم خوب جانتے ہیں۔ اس وقت ان میں سب سے اچھی راہ والا یعنی عاقل و ہوش مند کہے گا کہ نہیں، بلکہ صرف ایک ہی روز ٹھہرے ہو۔ اور اے نبی صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم، لوگ تم سے پہاڑوں کے بارے میں دریافت کرتے ہیں، کہہ دو کہ میرا رب ان کو راکھ بنا کر بکھیر دے گا، پھر زمین کو ہموار میدان کر چھوڑے گا جس میں تم کوئی نشیب و فراز نہ دیکھو گے۔ اس روز لوگ پکارنے والے کے پیچھے چلیں گے اور اس کی پیروی سے انحراف نہ کر سکیں گے، اور رحمان کے سامنے آوازیں پست ہو جائیں گی، تو تم ایک ہلکی آواز کے سوا کوئی آواز نہ سنو گے۔ اس روز کسی کی سفارش کچھ فائدہ نہ دے گی مگر اس شخص کی جسے رحمان اجازت دے اور اس کی بات کو پسند فرمائے۔ جو کچھ ان کے آگے ہے اور جو کچھ ان کے پیچھے ہے وہ اس کو جانتا ہے، اور وہ اپنے علم سے اللہ کے علم کا احاطہ نہیں کر سکتے۔ اور اس زندہ و قائم کے روبرو منہ لٹک جائیں گے، اور جس نے ظلم کا بوجھ اٹھایا وہ نامراد رہا، اور جو نیک کام کرے گا اور مومن بھی ہوگا تو اس کو نہ ظلم کا خوف ہوگا اور نہ نقصان کا۔ اور ہم نے اس کو اسی طرح کا قرآن عربی نازل کیا ہے، اور اس میں طرح طرح کے ڈراوے بیان کر دیے ہیں تاکہ لوگ پرہیزگار بنیں یا اللہ ان کے لیے نصیحت پیدا کر دے۔ یہ لوگ اسی طرح غفلت میں رہیں گے یہاں تک کہ جب ان میں سے کسی کے پاس موت آ جائے گی تو کہے گا کہ اے پروردگار، مجھے پھر دنیا میں واپس بھیج دے تاکہ میں اس میں جسے چھوڑ آیا ہوں نیک کام کیا کروں۔ ہرگز نہیں، یہ ایک ایسی بات ہے کہ وہ اسے زبان سے کہہ رہا ہوگا اور اس کے ساتھ عمل نہیں ہوگا۔ اور ان کے پیچھے برزخ ہے جہاں وہ اس دن تک کہ دوبارہ اٹھائے جائیں گے رہیں گے۔ پھر جب سور پھونکا جائے گا تو نہ تو ان میں قرابتیں رہیں گی اور نہ ایک دوسرے کو پوچھیں گے۔ تو جن کے اعمال کے بوجھ بھاری ہوں گے تو وہی کامیاب ہیں، اور جن کے بوجھ ہلکے ہوں گے وہ لوگ ہیں جنہوں نے اپنے آپ کو خسارے میں ڈالا، ہمیشہ دوزخ میں رہیں گے۔ آگ ان کے چہروں کو جھلس دے گی اور وہ اس میں بد شکل ہو رہے ہوں گے۔ کیا تم کو میری آیتیں پڑھ کر نہیں سنائی جاتی تھیں؟ پھر تم تو ان کو جھٹلائے ہی جاتے تھے۔ وہ کہیں گے اے ہمارے پروردگار، ہم پر ہماری کمبختی غالب آ گئی اور ہم رستے سے بھٹک گئے۔ اے پروردگار، ہم کو اس میں سے نکال دے، اگر ہم پھر ایسے کام کریں تو ظالم ہوں گے۔ فرمائے گا کہ اسی میں ذلت کے ساتھ پڑے رہو اور مجھ سے بات نہ کرو۔ میرے بندوں میں ایک گروہ تھا جو دعا کیا کرتا تھا کہ اے ہمارے پروردگار، ہم ایمان لائے تو تو ہم کو بخش دے اور ہم پر رحم فرما، اور تو سب سے بہتر رحم کرنے والا ہے۔ تو تم ان سے تمسخر کرتے رہے، یہاں تک کہ ان کے پیچھے میری یاد بھی بھول گئے، اور تم ہمیشہ ان سے ہنسی کیا کرتے تھے۔ آج میں نے ان کو ان کے صبر کا بدلہ دیا کہ وہی کامیاب ہو گئے۔ اللہ پوچھے گا کہ تم زمین میں کتنے برس رہے؟ وہ کہیں گے کہ ہم 1 روز یا 1 روز سے بھی کم رہے تھے۔ شمار کرنے والوں سے پوچھ لیجئے۔ اللہ فرمائے گا کہ وہاں تم بہت ہی کم رہے، کاش تم جانتے ہوتے۔ جس دن یہ فرشتوں کو دیکھیں گے اس دن گناہگاروں کے لیے کوئی خوشی کی بات نہیں ہوگی، اور کہیں گے کہیں کوئی رکاوٹ کھڑی کر دی جائے، اور جو انہوں نے عمل کیے ہوں گے ہم ان کی طرف متوجہ ہوں گے تو ان کو بکھرا ہوا غبار کر دیں گے۔ اس دن اہل جنت کا ٹھکانہ بھی بہتر ہوگا اور ان کے آرام کی جگہ بھی خوب ہوگی۔ اور جس دن آسمان ابر سے پھٹ جائے گا اور فرشتے نازل کیے جائیں گے، اس دن سچی بادشاہی رحمان ہی کی ہوگی، اور وہ دن کافروں پر سخت مشکل ہوگا۔ اور جس دن ظالم اپنے ہاتھ کاٹ کاٹ کھائے گا اور کہے گا کہ اے کاش میں نے پیغمبر کے ساتھ رستہ اختیار کیا ہوتا، ہائے شامت، کاش میں نے فلاں شخص کو دوست نہ بنایا ہوتا، اس نے مجھ کو کتاب نصیحت کے میرے پاس آنے کے بعد بہکا دیا۔ اور شیطان انسان کو وقت پر دغا دینے والا ہے، جس دن نہ مال ہی کچھ فائدہ دے سکے گا اور نہ بیٹے۔ ہاں، جو شخص اللہ کے پاس بے روگ دل لے کر آیا وہ بچ جائے گا، اور بہشت پرہیزگاروں کے قریب کر دی جائے گی، اور دوزخ گمراہوں کے سامنے لائی جائے گی، اور ان سے کہا جائے گا کہ جن کو تم پوجتے تھے وہ کہاں ہیں؟ یعنی جن کو اللہ کے سوا پوجتے تھے، کیا وہ تمہاری مدد کر سکتے ہیں یا خود بدلہ لے سکتے ہیں؟ تو وہ خود اور گمراہ یعنی بت اور بت پرست اوندھے منہ دوزخ میں ڈال دیے جائیں گے، اور شیطان کے لشکر سب کے سب داخل جہنم ہوں گے، وہاں وہ آپس میں
I watched my best friend destroy himself being the good guy. He gave everything, forgave everyone, sacrificed his peace for people who didn't even remember his name. 3 years later, I saw him again. He wasn't broken anymore. He was ruthless. And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, "The world didn't change. I did. I stopped being easy to break." That sentence stuck with me, because deep down, I realized it wasn't just his story. It was mine. And it's yours, too. Right now, there are 2 versions of you. Version 1, the one that explains, apologizes, tolerates, and keeps hoping people will change. You bend over backwards to be understood, respected, loved. But the more you give, the less they see your value. Then there's version 2, the silent one, the certain one, the one who doesn't argue, doesn't beg, doesn't chase. They just remove, without noise, without guilt. You've been living as version 1 for too long, and it's killing you. It's made you soft where you should be sharp, kind where you should be calculated. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." And he wasn't talking about cruelty. He was talking about control, about knowing when to stop being the person who breaks for others. Today, I'm going to show you how to awaken version 2, the ruthless version of you. The one Machiavelli wrote about. The one people sense but can never manipulate. There are 8 shifts that separate these 2 versions of you. Each one will demand a piece of your old self. Each one will feel like you're burning what used to define you. But if you stay until the end, you'll walk away unrecognizable to the person you were before. You'll stop seeking peace from others and start generating it from within. You'll learn the power of being untouchable. Because this world will break you unless you become ruthless. And before we begin, I want you to drop this in the comments. I will not break again. Number 1, stop giving yourself to the ungrateful. The first transformation into ruthlessness begins when you realize this. Your biggest weakness was never your heart. It was where you placed it. You've been bleeding energy into people who feed off your light, but never once give it back. You kept helping, forgiving, explaining, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they'd finally see your worth. But they never do. Why? Because in the psychology of power, what's freely given is subconsciously devalued. People instinctively equate generosity with inferiority. They assume if you give too easily, it's because you need to be liked. And the moment someone senses your need, they control you. That's how weakness is born. Not from failure, but from emotional dependence disguised as kindness. Machiavelli once said, "Men are quicker to offend one who is loved than one who is feared." The ungrateful exploit your goodness precisely because they don't fear losing it. They know you'll stay. They know you'll forgive. They know that no matter how badly they treat you, you'll rationalize their behavior with excuses like, "They're just going through something." That's not compassion. That's self-delusion. The truth is, people remember pain, not kindness. They respect consequences, not explanations. The more predictable your mercy, the more invisible you become. Every time you tolerated disrespect, you trained them to see you as disposable. Every time you explained your worth, you confirmed you had to prove it. That's the silent psychology behind why the good get broken first. The world doesn't destroy you because you're kind. It destroys you because you confuse being kind with being harmless. The ungrateful are predators in human form. They don't hunt your body, they hunt your guilt. They make you feel bad for protecting yourself. They twist your empathy into a weapon and stab you with it. So, stop thinking you owe anyone your loyalty just because you once cared. Your care is a privilege, not a right. Give it only to those who have earned it through consistent respect. Everyone else should feel the sharpness of your absence. Detachment is your defense. Indifference is your revenge. Machiavelli understood this deeply when he said, "Men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous." He was warning you, never give power to the ungrateful, because they'll use it to weaken you. You must unlearn the belief that being good will save you. Goodness without boundaries is a death sentence. Ruthlessness is not cruelty, it's correction. It's the moment you stop rewarding betrayal with access. When you stop answering every call, stop forgiving every lie, stop explaining your silence, the ungrateful panic. They realize they can't feed off your emotional reactions anymore. That's when power shifts. You become the one who decides who gets your attention and who fades into irrelevance. The world belongs to those who conserve their energy like a weapon, not those who waste it like a wish. Every ounce of strength you pour into the wrong people is power stolen from your future. Withdraw it, hoard it, rebuild it. Let them wonder what happened to your warmth. Tell them it froze when you finally saw the truth. Some people deserve your distance more than your devotion. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My kindness has limits. Number 2. Turn pain into power. Pain is the purest teacher because it never lies. It doesn't flatter your ego. It doesn't care about your excuses. It exposes you, strips you, burns everything weak inside you until only the real you remains. The difference between the broken and the powerful isn't the amount of pain they've felt. It's what they did with it. Weak people drown in pain because they keep searching for fairness. They still think the world owes them healing. But ruthless minds know the truth. Pain is currency. You either spend it building yourself or waste it by complaining. The ones who rise from destruction are not lucky. They're strategic. They look at betrayal, heartbreak, and failure. And instead of asking, "Why me?" they ask, "What is this teaching me about control?" Machiavelli once said, "Never waste the opportunity offered by a good crisis." Every moment of suffering is an opportunity to evolve into someone untouchable. Pain is not punishment, it's information. It tells you exactly where your weakness lives. Every betrayal shows you who you trusted too easily. Every rejection reveals where you placed your worth. Every loss exposes the illusion of permanence. When you start viewing pain through that lens, it stops being a wound and becomes a weapon. You start using it to sharpen your mind instead of destroy it. The dark psychology of transformation lies in transmuting suffering into strategy. Most people cry to feel better. The strong reflect to get stronger. When they're hurt, they don't chase closure. They create power. They study their enemies instead of hating them. They analyze their mistakes instead of escaping them. They turn every heartbreak into emotional discipline, every disappointment into focus. That's the essence of Machiavellian resilience. To use the world's cruelty as fuel, not as chains. Pain is the forge where dominance is born. When life breaks you, it's showing you who you really are without masks. Stop running from it. Sit with it. Feel every ounce of the fire. Because once you survive your own suffering, no one else can control you with fear. The moment you stop fearing pain, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. When others try to manipulate you through guilt or rejection, it no longer works, because you've already faced worse and survived. Machiavelli believed that a wise man learns more from misfortune than from comfort. That's because pain activates awareness. It forces evolution. It silences illusion. You start seeing people for who they are, not who you wished they'd be. You start choosing logic over emotion. The more you endure, the less reactive you become. You move like someone who's already been through the fire and lived. That energy commands respect because it's dangerous. People feel it when you walk into a room, the aura of someone who has turned every wound into wisdom. You no longer carry scars with shame. You wear them like armor. Your silence becomes heavy, your gaze steady. That's when you know you've crossed over, from being shaped by pain to shaping others through it. The next time life hurts you, don't curse it. Study it. Ask yourself, what advantage is hidden here? Because every moment of agony carries a seed of dominance if you're ruthless enough to use it. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My pain builds power. Number 3, kill the need to be understood. The hunger to be understood is the trap that keeps powerful minds chained to mediocrity. You keep explaining yourself, hoping people will see your intentions, your goodness, your truth. But here's the harsh reality. Most don't care to understand you. They only care to categorize you. They don't listen to comprehend. They listen to find weakness. The more you explain, the more information you give them to use against you. In dark psychology, understanding equals control. When people know your motives, they know how to manipulate you. That's why the ruthless stay silent. They let others guess, project, assume. And in that confusion, they remain untouchable. Machiavelli once said, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. And to command, you must never over-explain. Because explaining is a defensive act. It reveals that you still seek validation. Power doesn't justify itself. It simply exists. The most intimidating people are the ones who don't explain why they act, feel, or disappear. Their silence creates tension. That tension creates respect. The weak beg to be seen. The strong choose to be misunderstood. You must understand that when you stop defending yourself, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is fear's twin. People can't control what they can't read. That's why rulers, leaders, and strategists throughout history mastered the art of ambiguity. They spoke less than they knew and acted more than they explained. You must learn to do the same. Every time you rush to explain your intentions, you give away the blueprint of your emotions. You're teaching others how to disarm you. The dangerous thing about being transparent is that it invites dissection. And dissection always kills the magic of power. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does, finally." The wise stop justifying themselves early, while the fool keeps talking until he's exposed. You don't owe anyone clarity about your choices. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your distance, your silence, your standards, or your change. Let them misunderstand. Let them assume you've become cold, arrogant, detached. Every false label they give you adds another layer to your armor. The moment you stop trying to correct them, you regain control. Because control lives in restraint. Silence is not weakness. It's weaponized composure. It makes others nervous because they can't predict your next move. And uncertainty makes them cautious. That's psychological dominance. Think of the most powerful people you've ever met. They weren't loud. They were composed. Their presence demanded attention, not because they shouted, but because they didn't need to. Every word they didn't say spoke louder than 1,000 justifications. You must become that kind of presence. A mystery no one can fully grasp. A storm that doesn't announce itself. When someone tries to provoke you, let your silence suffocate their ego. When someone misjudges you, let them sit in their own assumption. The truth is your weapon. Don't waste it proving your innocence. Those who need to understand you don't deserve to. Those who truly value you will never need an explanation. Power is not about convincing others. It's about becoming so self-assured that their confusion no longer matters. Once you stop needing to be understood, you finally begin to understand yourself. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence speaks power. Number 4. Detach, don't beg. Begging for attention, love, or closure is how the powerful become slaves. The more you chase what's walking away, the smaller you become in the eyes of those who never intended to value you. Detachment is not coldness, it's control. It's the skill of walking away from anything that threatens your self-respect, no matter how much you wanted it. Most people mistake attachment for loyalty, but they are opposites. Loyalty is strength. Attachment is dependence. The world has conditioned you to believe that fighting for people proves your care. But in dark psychology, the one who chases always loses power. The act of begging, whether for time, affection, or attention, broadcasts weakness, and weakness invites exploitation. Machiavelli once wrote, "The one who is not master of himself cannot be master of others." When your emotions rule you, you are easy to control. The ruthless detach, not because they lack emotion, but because they refuse to be owned by it. When someone pulls away, they don't argue or explain, they observe. When someone disrespects them, they don't plead, they vanish. Silence becomes their sword, and absence becomes their message. In a world built on emotional manipulation, detachment is the ultimate rebellion. It terrifies manipulators because it kills their power source, your reaction. Once you stop reacting, you become unreadable. And when you're unreadable, you become feared. The secret weapon of the powerful is not rage, it's indifference. Indifference burns colder than hate and lasts longer than love. When people can no longer predict how you'll respond, they lose their control over your mind. That's the moment your energy begins to shift. You stop being the one who waits and start being the one who decides. The ones who once ignored you start to notice your silence, because silence from a once reactive person is louder than any confrontation. Detachment gives you a strange kind of authority, the authority to walk away from chaos with your peace intact. Machiavelli believed that control over one's emotions was the foundation of every successful ruler, because those who cannot detach are doomed to be controlled by those who can. He said, "Men are driven by two principal impulses, either by love or by fear. If you can master your attachment, you will control both." The ruthless understand that not everyone deserves access. Not every emotion deserves. Boundaries are your armor. Boundaries are the invisible walls that separate power from chaos. Without them, your life becomes an open field where anyone can enter, take what they want, and leave you empty. You've been taught to believe that saying no is selfish, that setting limits makes you unkind. But in truth, the absence of boundaries is self-betrayal. Every time you tolerate disrespect, every time you forgive without consequence, every time you let people cross lines to keep the peace, you surrender pieces of yourself. Weak men and women confuse tolerance with strength. The ruthless know better. They understand that a heart without armor is a target. Machiavelli once wrote, "A prince who is not wise himself cannot be well advised." What he meant was simple. If you cannot guard yourself, no one else will. The world doesn't honor openness, it exploits it. The ones who smile at your kindness today will use your forgiveness tomorrow. That's the nature of unchecked human desire. People always test the limits you refuse to enforce. Boundaries are not walls to keep others out. They are gates that protect what's sacred inside you. They are not cruelty, they are clarity. And clarity terrifies manipulators because it removes their leverage. In dark psychology, boundaries are weapons of control. The person who enforces them dictates the terms of every relationship. When you calmly say no without guilt, you communicate dominance. When you cut off access after betrayal, you announce that your worth is non-negotiable. The powerful don't argue about respect. They demonstrate it through distance. Forgiveness without consequences is submission. Mercy without structure invites chaos. The moment you stop rewarding bad behavior with your presence, you begin to command silence from those who once disrespected you. The fearful will call it arrogance. The weak will label it ego, but the wise will recognize it as self-command. Machiavelli also said, "He who allows himself to be deceived, not available." To live without boundaries is to live without dignity. To live with them is to command your world with quiet authority. The ruthless know that kindness without defense invites destruction. So they build walls not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because the goal isn't to be liked, it's to be respected. Remember, every boundary you set is a declaration. This is where my peace begins, and those who truly value you will never ask you to lower your armor. They'll stand outside it with honor. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My boundaries protect me. Number 6. Master the art of silence. Silence is the weapon the powerful use when words lose their value. Most people fear silence because it exposes their lack of control. They talk to fill the air, to prove their confidence, to seek validation through noise. But every unnecessary word you speak becomes ammunition for someone else's manipulation. The wise understand that in a world addicted to talking, silence is dominance. Machiavelli once wrote, "Never reveal all your thoughts, for it makes you predictable and vulnerable." The moment people can read your emotions, they can calculate your reactions. And the one who can predict, you can control you. Silence makes you unreadable. It builds an atmosphere of mystery that forces others to second-guess themselves. The quiet man in the room always holds more power than the one shouting for attention. In dark psychology, silence is not emptiness, it's strategy. It shifts the balance of control without confrontation. When you say nothing, you let others reveal everything. They expose their insecurities, motives, and weaknesses while trying to understand you. The ruthless use this to their advantage. They listen more than they speak, observe more than they explain, and act more than they promise. The weak rush to prove their point. The strong wait for the perfect moment to strike. Every pause you hold in a conversation increases your authority. Every time you let others fill the silence, they unknowingly surrender information. Machiavelli believed that power thrives in perception. The less people know about your intentions, the more they fear them. Silence creates psychological tension. It makes others project their fears onto you. They start wondering what you're thinking, what you might do next, and that uncertainty gives you invisible control. This is why silence isn't absence, it's presence magnified. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your restraint speaks louder than chaos. The loudest person rarely holds power. They crave it, but the silent one already possesses it. The rulers of history understood this truth. The less you reveal, the more they imagine. The more they imagine, the more they obey. You must learn to weaponize your calm, to use silence as your language. When someone insults you, stay silent and watch them unravel in their own guilt. When someone provokes you, give no reaction and let their desperation expose them. Your silence will echo louder than any argument. People expect noise. They fear stillness. In stillness lies control. Machiavelli said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." The fool defends himself with words, the wise guard himself with quiet. The moment you stop explaining, you shift from emotional to strategic. You stop playing defense and start commanding the game. Power doesn't beg to be understood. It demands to be felt. Silence makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability breeds respect. When you learn to hold your tongue, you learn to hold your power. And in a world where everyone wants to be heard, the one who masters silence becomes impossible to defeat. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence controls chaos. Number 7. Never show full loyalty. Loyalty is a weapon only when it's selective. The moment you give it blindly, it becomes your cage. Machiavelli warned that men are ungrateful, fickle, and deceitful. So to expect pure loyalty is to invite betrayal. Power belongs to those who know when to align and when to withdraw. The world is not moved by goodness, it is moved by strategy. When you show absolute loyalty to anyone, a friend, a mentor, or a leader, you surrender your independence. They start to view your devotion as weakness, not virtue. The loyal are predictable, and predictability is death in the game of power. Dark psychology teaches that loyalty must be a calculated act, never an emotional one. True Machiavellian loyalty is conditional. It serves your growth, your protection, your rise. Once it stops serving those, it must be re-evaluated. Most people remain loyal out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being labeled untrustworthy, fear of losing approval. But these are the same people who end up discarded, betrayed, or replaced when they are no longer useful. The powerful never attach themselves to the person. They attach to the opportunity. They know alliances shift like tides. They don't resist it. They ride it. Your loyalty should be a mask, not your identity. You wear it when it benefits you, and you remove it when it becomes a liability. This is not cruelty. It's realism. The world rewards those who think, not those who feel. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise man ought never to make himself depend wholly on one thing or one person. Dependence kills autonomy, and autonomy is the root of dominance. Never reveal where your true allegiance lies. Let people believe you're on their side, but remain free internally." The illusion of loyalty is far more powerful than loyalty itself. It keeps others comfortable while keeping you untouchable. In politics, business, and personal life, this is how empires are built. Kings fall because they trust too deeply. Subordinates are eliminated because they serve too faithfully. Friends turn enemies because they expect equality where hierarchy rules. When you are too loyal, people stop respecting you. They test your boundaries, they exploit your devotion, and they stop fearing your withdrawal. Fear maintains order. When people know you can walk away without hesitation, they treat your loyalty as a privilege, not a guarantee. That's how you command respect. You must learn to give loyalty like a sword, sharp, deliberate, and only when it cuts in your favor. Never give it like a gift. Gifts are forgotten, but weapons are remembered. This mindset makes you unpredictable, which is the ultimate psychological advantage. They can't manipulate someone they can't define. And that's the essence of Machiavellian power, to remain a mystery in plain sight, loyal in appearance, but sovereign in reality. The modern world will call this cold or heartless, but those are the words of the powerless, the same ones who worship those who betrayed them. Remember this truth: loyalty without strategy is self-betrayal. You owe nothing to anyone who would not bleed for your survival. Your allegiance must always belong to your purpose, not to the people who come and go along the way. Number 8. Become untouchable. Becoming untouchable is the ultimate evolution of power. It is the point where no insult, betrayal, or manipulation can pierce your armor. This state isn't about cruelty or arrogance. It's about complete sovereignty over yourself. The world will always throw chaos at you. People will always test your patience, and circumstances will never bend to your desires. The weak break, the fearful react, and the unprepared crumble. But the untouchable, they move like a shadow over the battlefield, unaffected, unshaken, unowned. Machiavelli once wrote, "He who is wise will be master of himself, for he who is mastered by others is never free." True freedom comes from inner mastery. To become untouchable, you must stop chasing love, approval, and validation. These are illusions, traps that keep you tethered to other people's whims. The world does not reward kindness, nor does it honor virtue. It respects power, self-possession, and relentless clarity. When you stop relying on others to feed your ego, you start to reclaim your energy. That energy becomes a fortress, shielding you from manipulation, deceit, and distraction. The untouchable build themselves deliberately. They invest in skills, discipline, and strategy rather than approval. They cultivate patience, presence, and quiet confidence. Their reputation is not earned by noise, but by consistency and invisible authority. Dark psychology reveals that people fear what they cannot control. Once you detach from expectation, from reaction, from the need to be understood or loved, you become a psychological enigma. No one can predict your moves. No one can pull strings on your mind. You've removed the levers. The untouchable do not act out of emotion. They act from strategy. Anger is measured, fear is irrelevant, and desire is disciplined. Every reaction is intentional. Every silence is meaningful. You become the axis around which chaos spins, unmoved by the storms that collapse others. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Being feared isn't about terror. It's about presence, control, and the awareness that crossing you has a cost. Untouchability is the ability to make people hesitate before testing you. It is the quiet declaration that you are no longer accessible for exploitation. No betrayal, no insult, no manipulation can unsettle you because you are complete within yourself. You are no longer a reflection of others' opinions. You are the sum of your own strategy and willpower. To reach this stage, you must shed the last remnants of dependence. The need to justify, the need to forgive, the need to be recognized. You must rise above attachment, resentment, and longing. The untouchable do not flinch because they understand the impermanence of external validation. They are anchored to themselves, and that anchor cannot be uprooted by circumstance. When you reach this level, power becomes effortless. People sense it instinctively. They either respect it or fear it, but they cannot ignore it. You are no longer a participant in the manipulations of others. You are the standard by which influence and control are measured. You move through the world untouchable because you have mastered the only thing that ever mattered, yourself. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Nothing can break me. The world will try to break you. It will test your patience, betray your trust, and punish your kindness. It will show you that fairness is a myth, that people are unpredictable, and that the only thing you can truly rely on is yourself. For too long, you've allowed others to dictate your peace. You've given your energy to the unworthy, begged for understanding, and let attachment chain you to disappointment. But that ends today. You now have the blueprint to become someone no one can manipulate, no one can exploit, no one can touch. You've learned to stop giving to the ungrateful. You've turned your pain into power. You've killed the need to be understood, detached from what drains you, and fortified yourself with unbreakable boundaries. You've mastered silence, commanded respect through calm, wielded loyalty strategically, and evolved into someone untouchable. None of this is luck. None of it is easy. But every step you take in this direction strips the world of its leverage over you. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." Today, you are choosing wisdom. You are choosing control. You are choosing ruthlessness in the most disciplined, silent, and powerful sense. This is the version of you that the world cannot bend, cannot manipulate, and cannot break. The road ahead will not be simple, and there will be challenges. But every trial now becomes a tool. Every betrayal becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes an opportunity to demonstrate that you are no longer available for exploitation. The untouchable are forged in fire, sharpened by strategy, and protected by self-mastery. Stand firm in this truth. Walk through life with clarity and composure. Become the person who moves without apology, who commands without announcement, who rises without permission. And as you take this path, remember, the world will notice the difference, but only after you are untouchable. If you found value in this guide, make sure to hit the like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel for more strategies that make you stronger, smarter, and impossible to break. You are no longer the version that bends. You are the version that rules. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I am untouchable now. Most people fight for attention. They try to stay visible. They try to stay available. They believe the more they show up, the more they will matter. But strategic people don't fight for attention. They fight for mental territory, because attention is temporary. Mental space is power. When someone owns your time, that's influence. But when someone owns your thoughts, when you replay their words, when you wonder what they meant, when their presence stays with you even after they leave, that's power. You don't need to chase attention. You need to occupy the mind, and that is a completely different game. Most people think obsession is created by intensity. They believe if they give more energy, more emotion, more effort, people will become attached. But obsession doesn't come from intensity. It comes from psychological tension. The human mind is not controlled by what is obvious. It is controlled by what feels unfinished. When everything is explained, the brain relaxes. When everything is predictable, interest fades. But when something feels incomplete, when there is curiosity, when there is uncertainty, when there is something left unsaid, the mind keeps returning again and again. This is why the most powerful people are not the loudest. They are the most mentally present. Machiavellian thinking is not about romance. It is not about emotional games. It is about leverage. It is about understanding how attention works, how memory works, and how psychological tension keeps someone mentally connected to you. As Niccolo Machiavelli understood centuries ago, power is not about forcing people to feel something. Power is about creating conditions where their own mind keeps returning to you. Because the strongest form of influence is not control over someone's actions. It is influence over their thoughts. When your presence creates unresolved curiosity, when your behavior cannot be fully predicted, when your absence creates mental friction, you become psychologically significant. And people don't chase what is available. They chase what occupies their mind. Today, we are breaking down 7 modern dark psychology principles that turn simple presence into mental permanence. These principles will not teach you how to chase attention. They will teach you how to create psychological gravity, how to become memorable, how to become mentally valuable, how to become someone the mind keeps returning to, without effort, without pressure. without need. Real power is being mentally unavoidable. Before we begin, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I control mental space. Number 1. Control mental space, not physical presence. Most people believe influence comes from being around someone as much as possible. They stay available, they respond instantly, they extend conversations, they try to keep the interaction alive for as long as they can. But constant presence does not create value. It creates familiarity, and familiarity relaxes the mind. When someone sees you too often, hears from you too frequently, or feels your energy all the time, your presence becomes normal, predictable, easy to process, and the human brain does not hold on to what feels ordinary. Strategic influence works differently. The goal is not to be around them longer. The goal is to stay in their mind after you leave. Because power is not measured by how long you were present. Power is measured by how long your impact lasts. This is where most people fail. They focus on duration instead of depth. They talk too much. They explain too much. They fill every silence. And in doing so, they remove the very thing that creates mental engagement: space. The mind needs space to replay. When an interaction is short but meaningful, something interesting happens. The brain begins to reconstruct the moment. It reviews your words. It analyzes your tone. It tries to understand the intention behind what you said. And that process creates repetition. Repetition creates familiarity. But when repetition happens inside their mind, it turns into fixation. Instead of giving them more of your time, give them something to think about. Say less, but make it precise. Speak with clarity, not volume. End conversations while the energy is still rising, not when it starts fading. Because the strongest psychological hook is an unfinished emotional state. When the interaction ends too cleanly, the brain moves on. But when it ends with curiosity, interest, or a slight sense of incompletion, the mind continues the interaction internally. This is how mental space is created. Another key principle is emotional imprint. People do not remember long conversations. They remember emotional shifts. A moment of unexpected insight, a sharp observation, a calm reaction when emotion was expected. When your presence creates a noticeable internal reaction, the brain tags that interaction as significant. And significance leads to recall. But recall becomes obsession only when combined with absence. If you remain constantly available, the mind doesn't need to revisit you. But when you create impact and then step away, the brain has no new input. So it reuses the old one. That's when your mental presence grows. Silence, after impact, is not distance. It is psychological amplification. Another mistake people make is trying to maintain momentum through constant contact. They believe continuity builds connection. In reality, constant contact removes mystery, and mystery is the fuel of mental engagement. When someone doesn't know exactly when they will hear from you again, when your appearances feel intentional rather than automatic, your presence gains weight. You move from routine to event, from expected to noticed. And once your presence is noticed, your absence becomes felt. That is the shift. From physical interaction to psychological occupation, the most influential individuals are not those who are always around. They are the ones whose brief presence leaves a lasting cognitive trace. Short interaction, deep impact, then space. Because when the conversation ends and their mind keeps replaying it, you are no longer interacting with them. You are living inside their thoughts. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My impact lingers. Number 2. be hard to categorize. The human mind is built for efficiency. It constantly scans people and situations, looking for patterns. The moment it believes it understands someone, it creates a mental label. Friendly, serious, emotional, logical, confident, quiet, predictable. And once that label is created, something important happens. Attention drops, because the brain believes there is nothing new to discover. This is why most people become forgettable. Their reactions are consistent. Their tone never changes. Their behavior follows a clear pattern. After a short time, others feel they know exactly who they are and what to expect. And when someone becomes predictable, the mind stops working. But obsession doesn't grow from certainty. It grows from complexity. When someone cannot fully define you, their brain keeps trying to figure you out. It looks for hidden meaning. It analyzes your behavior. It pays closer attention to your words, your mood shifts, your reactions. Because the mind is uncomfortable with incomplete understanding. It wants closure, and if you never give full closure, the attention continues. Most people make themselves easy to read. Their emotions are obvious. Their opinions are immediate. Their reactions are automatic. They reveal everything about themselves too quickly in an attempt to build connection. But full transparency removes intrigue. When someone feels they have seen all your layers, curiosity disappears. Strategic presence works differently. Instead of revealing your full emotional range at once, you allow different sides of your personality to appear at different moments. Calm in one situation, sharp in another, light humor when seriousness is expected, silence when others are reacting emotionally. This contrast creates cognitive tension. The mind begins asking quiet questions. Are they emotional or controlled? Are they warm or distant? Are they relaxed or intense? And the more difficult it becomes to place you into a single category, the more mental energy you receive. But this is not about acting or pretending. It is about emotional control and selective expression. Most people react automatically based on the situation. Strategic individuals respond intentionally. They choose when to show intensity, when to show restraint, when to engage, when to step back. This controlled variation prevents pattern formation, and without a stable pattern, the brain stays alert. Another important factor is emotional independence. When your reactions are not driven by approval, pressure, or social expectation, your behavior becomes less predictable. You are not easily influenced by the emotional tone around you. While others rise and fall with the environment, you remain centered. That stability, combined with selective variation, creates a powerful psychological effect. You feel grounded, but not simple. Clear, but not fully revealed. And that balance keeps attention locked. People often think likability comes from being easy to understand, but memorability comes from depth. When someone feels there is more beneath the surface than what is visible, their mind keeps searching for the missing pieces. Every interaction becomes a small investigation. Every conversation becomes a new data point. And over time, that quiet analysis turns into mental investment. They are not just interacting with you. They are trying to understand you. And when someone is trying to understand you, you already occupy their thoughts. Because the rarest psychological position is not being liked. It is being interesting without trying. Number 3, build controlled uncertainty. The human brain is constantly trying to close loops. It wants clarity. It wants emotional certainty. It wants to know where things stand, what something means, and what will happen next. When everything feels defined, the mind relaxes. And when the mind relaxes, attention fades. This is why certainty feels comfortable, but rarely creates psychological intensity. When someone knows exactly how you feel about them, exactly how you will respond, and exactly where they stand in your world, there is no reason for their mind to stay engaged. The emotional equation is complete. There is nothing left to solve. But when there is controlled uncertainty, something very different happens. The mind stays active. It replays conversations, looking for hidden signals. It analyzes tone, timing, and behavior. It tries to predict your emotional position. It searches for confirmation that never comes fully. And that search creates mental attachment. This does not mean confusion or mixed signals driven by emotional instability. That creates distrust and distance. Controlled uncertainty is different. It comes from emotional steadiness combined with selective clarity. Your energy is consistent, your behavior is calm, but your emotional availability is not fully defined. Sometimes you are warm, other times you are reserved. Sometimes you engage deeply, other times you step back without explanation. Your attention feels intentional, not automatic. This creates an open loop. The person cannot fully measure your emotional investment. They sense interest, but not certainty. They feel connection, but not possession. And that space between connection and certainty is where obsession grows. Another powerful element of controlled uncertainty is timing. Most people respond immediately to everything. Messages, invitations, emotional signals. Their availability becomes predictable. Their attention feels guaranteed. But when your responses follow your own rhythm instead of emotional pressure, your presence feels chosen rather than given. The mind notices that difference. It begins to wonder what else occupies your attention. It begins to value the moments when you do engage. Because availability that is not constant feels valuable. Consistency in character combined with variability in access creates psychological tension. That tension keeps attention alive. Language also plays a role. People often over-explain their feelings, their intentions, and their thoughts because they want to avoid misunderstanding. But too much explanation removes mystery. When every emotion is defined and every intention is stated, there is no room for interpretation. And interpretation is what keeps the mind working. Strategic communication is clear, but not exhaustive. You express enough to create connection, but not so much that there is nothing left to question. The goal is not to create doubt about your integrity. The goal is to leave space around your emotional depth. When someone feels there is more beneath the surface than what you reveal, their attention naturally moves toward you. Because uncertainty creates curiosity, and curiosity creates mental repetition. One more factor makes controlled uncertainty powerful: emotional independence. When your mood, attention, and engagement are not driven by someone else's reactions, your emotional position feels self-contained. You are not adjusting yourself to maintain their comfort. You are operating from your own internal center. That independence signals strength. And strength combined with emotional space creates a powerful psychological pull. They cannot fully predict you. They cannot fully measure you. And the mind keeps trying. Because the most persistent form of attention comes from unanswered emotional questions. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I create mystery. Number 4. Associate yourself with elevation. The human mind is naturally drawn to growth. People are constantly searching for environments, relationships, and influences that make them feel stronger, sharper, and more capable. They may not say it directly, but at a psychological level, everyone is asking the same quiet question. Does my life feel better when this person is around? If the answer is yes, attachment begins. If your presence makes someone feel more focused, more confident, more disciplined or more ambitious, you become more than just another connection. You become psychologically valuable, and value creates mental priority. Most people try to create attachment through comfort alone. They focus on being supportive, agreeable, and easy to be around. While comfort builds familiarity, it doesn't always create deep psychological impact. Comfort relaxes the mind. Elevation activates it. When someone leaves an interaction with you feeling more motivated, more aware, or more mentally energized, their brain begins to associate you with progress. And the mind holds tightly to anything connected with personal improvement. This is because growth triggers reward chemistry. When people feel they are becoming better versions of themselves, they naturally return to the source of that feeling. Your role is not to entertain them. Your role is to elevate their state. This can happen through the way you think, the way you speak, and the standards you carry. When your conversations bring clarity instead of noise, when your perspective challenges them to think deeper instead of staying comfortable, your presence begins to stand out. You are no longer just interaction. You become influence. Another important factor is emotional atmosphere. If your energy is calm, grounded, and forward-focused, people begin to regulate themselves around you. Your presence becomes stabilizing. In a world filled with distraction and emotional volatility, stability itself feels powerful. When someone feels more centered after being around you, your psychological weight increases. But elevation is not created by advice or correction alone. Most people resist being told what to do. True elevation comes through example. When your lifestyle reflects discipline, purpose, and direction, people feel the contrast without you saying a word. Your habits communicate standards. Your focus communicates priorities, and that silent signal creates respect. Respect is stronger than attraction, because respect builds long-term mental positioning. Another powerful element is selective reinforcement. When you acknowledge strength, effort, or progress in someone instead of just offering casual praise, your approval feels meaningful. You're not giving validation freely, you're recognizing growth. And when your recognition feels earned rather than automatic, your words carry weight. People begin to value your opinion. And once someone values your opinion, they begin to think about how they appear in your eyes, even when you are not present. That is psychological elevation, turning into mental presence. There is also a contrast effect at work. If your environment, conversations, and mindset consistently move toward improvement, other environments may start to feel less stimulating by comparison. Your presence becomes associated with momentum, and momentum is addictive. People naturally return to places and individuals who make them feel like they are moving forward instead of standing still. This is how elevation creates attachment without pressure. You are not asking for attention. Your presence earns it, because the mind prioritizes what improves its future. Number 5, master emotional contrast. The human brain is designed to notice change. It does not hold on to what stays the same for too long. When emotions, tone, and behavior remain constant, the mind adapts quickly. What once felt engaging becomes normal. What once felt special becomes expected. And what becomes expected slowly loses emotional impact. This is why constant warmth, constant seriousness, or constant intensity eventually fades in effect. Even positive energy, when delivered without variation, becomes background noise. But contrast resets attention. Contrast creates emotional movement, and emotional movement is what the brain remembers. Most people operate in a single emotional mode, They are always serious, always playful, always agreeable, or always intense. Their reactions follow the same pattern regardless of the situation. Because the pattern is stable, others stop paying close attention. They believe they already know what response is coming. But when your emotional range is controlled and dynamic, something different happens. The mind stays alert. If you are calm and focused most of the time, a moment of sharp humor feels powerful. If you are disciplined and direct, a rare moment of warmth feels meaningful. If you normally speak with restraint, a brief moment of intensity carries weight. The brain encodes these shifts because they break expectation. And what breaks expectation becomes memorable. Emotional contrast is not about mood swings or unpredictability driven by impulse. It is about controlled variation. Your core presence remains stable, but your expression adjusts with intention. You know when to be light. You know when to be serious. You know when to be distant. You know when to be fully present. This flexibility creates depth. People begin to experience different emotional layers around you. One moment feels focused and purposeful. Another moment feels relaxed and human. That range makes your presence feel alive instead of flat. Flat personalities are easy to process. Layered emotional experiences stay in memory. Another reason contrast works is because it creates emotional spikes. The brain remembers peaks and shifts more than steady states. A short moment of unexpected encouragement, a sudden insightful comment, or a calm reaction during tension creates a stronger imprint than long periods of neutral interaction. These moments become reference points. Later, the mind returns to them. It replays the tone, the expression, the timing. And through that replay, your psychological presence grows. Contrast also increases perceived authenticity. When someone shows only one emotional tone all the time, it can feel mechanical or controlled. But when your emotional expression changes naturally based on context, you feel real, grounded, and emotionally intelligent. People trust emotional intelligence more than emotional intensity. They feel that you are aware, responsive, and internally balanced. This balance makes others more emotionally attentive around you. They start reading your reactions more carefully. They look for subtle changes in your tone, your expressions, your level of engagement. And the moment someone starts monitoring your emotional signals, your influence increases because attention has shifted toward you. Another important effect of emotional contrast is emotional value. When warmth is constant, it feels ordinary. When attention is always available, it feels automatic. But when warmth appears selectively, when engagement increases at meaningful moments and pulls back at others, each positive interaction feels earned. And what feels earned feels valuable. Value increases focus. Focus increases mental presence. Over time, your emotional range becomes part of your psychological signature. People don't just remember what you said. They remember how it felt to be around you. And emotional memory is stronger than informational memory. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I create emotional impact. Number 6. Exit before you peak. Most people stay too long. They extend the conversation. They keep the interaction going. They try to hold the moment until the energy slowly fades. They believe more time creates stronger connection. But in psychology, overextension reduces impact. Every interaction has an emotional curve. It rises as interest builds, engagement increases, and attention becomes focused. But if the interaction continues past its natural peak, something predictable happens. The energy drops. The conversation becomes repetitive. The emotional intensity levels out. The sense of novelty disappears, and the brain quietly registers the ending as ordinary. What people remember most is not the middle of an experience. They remember the emotional high point and how it...
Introducing Grammarly, like you've never seen before. Your all-in-one writing essential. Say hello to Humanizer, a tool that ensures that when you do use AI...
Do you know anyone who has spent their entire life trying to deal with bad habits, but that person always fails? Some people try to overcome their addictions, such as alcohol, drugs, or other problems like obesity and procrastination, but they always return to their bad habits days later. You've probably met someone who said they were going to lose weight. This person started a super restrictive diet, cutting out everything they believed to be unhealthy, started running and going to the gym every day, but days later, when stress and the difficulty of balancing family, work, studies, and the diet set in, this initiative ended up being destroyed, and this person ends up returning to bad habits, perhaps in a worse way than before. I know this happens frequently, and maybe that person is you, but what if I told you there's a method combining several philosophies I've discussed here on the channel that can help you overcome any bad habit, including problems like obesity, alcohol addiction, or dealing with procrastination? And best of all, it's a super simple system. This system combines several concepts, such as Ikigai, Kaizen, Harahachibu, Wabi-Sabi, and lastly, Gambaru. But I need to warn you that this system goes against what many productivity coaches teach about change. It goes against what motivational gurus try to sell us every day. And it will require you to do something that seems ridiculously small, so small that you'll think it doesn't work, until it works. Before I show you exactly how this system works, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment on which habit you most want to change in your life. I receive many comments from people who have applied what we teach on this channel to their lives and have experienced real changes, and I am happy to read each of your feedback. Actually, the idea for this video came from a comment I read where a subscriber asked me for help overcoming obesity. So I made this content focusing more on obesity, but what I'm going to teach here can be applied to any area of your life. This game has been getting us through quarantine, you guys are... Thank you so much for your attention. I love all of you who follow me here. Now back to the video. Chapter 1. The Day Everything Changed. Today I'm going to tell the story of a man named Christopher. Christopher was 40 years old, weighed 142 kilos, and was dying slowly without realizing it. He wasn't a bad guy. He'd worked as a stock manager in a warehouse for 15 years. He woke up at 5 a.m. and got home at 7 p.m. 2 kids, a wife, bills to pay. The typical lower middle-class guy who supports his family and forgets he has a body. His diet, whatever he had time to eat. Breakfast in the car, lunch at his office desk, dinner watching TV because he was too exhausted to sit at the table with his family. Weekends were pizza, beer, and the couch. He deserved it. After all, he worked harder than a mule. His body began to give the first signs that something was wrong, but he ignored them. Climbing the stairs was exhausting. Tying his shoes became an engineering challenge. He had to sit down, hold his breath, strain his stomach. The children asked to play tag, and he made up excuses. His wife suggested a walk in the park, but he was too tired. But you know what hurt the most? It wasn't the numbers on the scale. It was the look in his 7-year-old daughter's eyes when she stopped asking him to play. She had learned that her father didn't play, and Christopher saw that, felt that, and did nothing, because he had already tried to change before. 3 times. He went to the gym for 2 months but stopped. He followed a low-carb diet for 3 weeks but gave up. He went for a morning run for 5 days, but stopped that too. He had arrived at that dangerous place where most people die without dying, acceptance of defeat. That's just how I am. I've always been fat. It's my genetics. My metabolism is slow. I don't have time. Until the day your body says, enough. It was a Saturday morning. Christopher was playing in the backyard with his 9-year-old son. No, he wasn't playing. He was sitting in a plastic chair watching the boy play ball alone. The son kicked the ball far away. It landed in the neighbor's flower bed. "Dad, can you get it for me?" Christopher stood up. He walked to the flower bed. He bent down to pick up the ball, and he couldn't get up. Not because he was in pain or injured. He simply didn't have the strength in his legs to lift his own body weight. He lay on all fours on his neighbor's flower bed, sweating, trying to get up, while his 9-year-old son watched silently. The neighbor had to help him get up. This might sound absurd to you watching, but believe me, there are people who go through this kind of situation where they can't perform basic daily tasks. That night, Christopher sat on the edge of the bed and cried. He cried because he was 40 years old and needed help getting up. He cried because his son had seen it. He cried because he realized he was building a memory in that child's mind. My father was weak. His wife entered the room. She didn't say anything. She just hugged him. And then she said, "You need help, Chris, really." On Sunday morning, he called the only friend who had lost weight and kept it off. A guy named Marcus who had lost 30 kilos and looked different, not just thinner, more complete. "Marcus, I need help. Did you go to the doctor? Did you take any medicine? How did you do it?" Marcus paused. "I did go to a doctor, yes, but not the kind of doctor you're thinking of. He didn't give me medicine. He gave me a philosophy." "Philosophy doesn't make me lose weight, Marcus." "Chris, you're wrong," Marcus replied. Chapter 2. The Japanese Doctor. The following Tuesday, Christopher sat in a minimalist consultation room that didn't look like a doctor's office. No anatomy posters, no hospital smell, just a wooden table, 2 chairs, and a huge window overlooking the garden. Dr. Takeshi Yamamoto entered. About 65 years old, thin, erect posture, calm movements. He didn't look like a doctor. He looked more like a monk. "Christopher, tell me what brought you here." Chris told him everything. The weight, the tiredness, the children, the shame, the flower bed. When he finished, he expected to hear about diet, exercise, blood tests. Dr. Yamamoto didn't turn on his computer. He didn't take out any prescriptions. He simply said, "Tell me something. How many times have you tried to lose weight?" 3, 4 maybe. "And how long did each attempt last?" 2 months at most, usually a few weeks. Dr. Yamamoto nodded. "Do you know why it failed?" Christopher started the list that everyone talks about: lack of time, genetics, metabolism. The doctor raised his hand, interrupting. "No. You failed because you tried to win a 40-year war in a 2-month battle. Your body took 40 years to reach this weight. Your mind took 40 years to build these habits. And you think you can undo that in weeks?" Silence. "Christopher, I'm going to make you a proposition. I'm going to ask you to make a change today. A change so small that you'll think I'm kidding you. So small that it will seem pointless. Do you accept?" Chris was desperate. "I'll accept anything." "Great. From today onwards, every day when you wake up, before doing anything else, you're going to drink a glass of water. That's all. A glass of water." Christopher waited the rest. He didn't come. "Just that? A glass of water?" "A glass of water every day for 2 weeks, nothing else. You can continue." "A glass of water every day for 2 weeks, nothing else. You can continue eating pizza, drinking beer, watching TV. Just add that glass of water in the morning." "Doctor, with all due respect, I need to lose about 50 kilos. A glass of water won't do it." "You're right. A glass of water isn't going to make you lose 50 kilos. Dr. Yamamoto leaned forward. "But it will do something much more important. It will prove to you that you can keep a promise to yourself. And that proof is the only thing you really need right now." Christopher left the doctor's office confused. He paid $200 for a consultation, only to be told he needed to drink water. He was even annoyed, but something Dr. Yamamoto said kept nagging at me. A promise to yourself. How many promises had he broken? How many Mondays had he sworn he would change, only to give up by Wednesday? If he couldn't trust himself, how could he possibly change? That night, he filled a glass with water and left it on his bedside table. The next morning, when the alarm clock rang at 5 a.m., he saw the glass. He drank it. Simple as that. Day 2, same thing. Day 3, also. On day 7, something different happened. He woke up before his alarm clock, and the first thing he thought was, "Where's my glass of water?" His brain began to expect it. On the 14th, he returned to the doctor's office. Dr. Yamamoto asked, "Did you drink water every day?" How do you feel? Honestly, a little silly. I didn't lose any weight, but I don't know, I did it. I did something for 2 whole weeks. The doctor smiled. You've just learned the first principle of Japanese philosophy that will change your life. It's called Kaizen, continuous improvement through microscopic changes. You didn't try to climb the mountain all at once. You just took one step, and then another, and then another. But doctor, a glass of water. It's not about the glass of water, Christopher. It's about proving to your brain that change is possible, that you're not the type of person to give up. Now, tell me, are you ready for the next step? What it is? Keep drinking water in the morning, but now add one more thing. Put half the food you would normally put on your plate, just half. You can have seconds if you're still hungry after 20 minutes, but first, half. Christopher remained silent. This too seemed too small. But he had been drinking water for 14 days straight. He had proven something to himself. Okay, I'll do it. Great. We'll talk again in 3 weeks. Chapter 3, The Hidden Philosophy. What Dr. Yamamoto didn't explain at that moment, but which Christopher would gradually discover, was that he wasn't just changing habits. He was being introduced to a complete philosophical system that the Japanese have used for centuries. Kaizen was just the gateway, continuous improvement of 1% per day. The idea that you don't need to be perfect tomorrow, you just need to be 1% better than today. And if you improve 1% per day for a year, you don't improve 365%. You improve 3,778%. It's exponential math. One of the secrets behind introducing these small habits is that they are keystone habits. Angular habits, keystone habits. These are habits that, when implemented, trigger a cascade of positive changes in other areas of your life. They act like a lever or the first domino. By focusing on improving just that core habit, you begin to have small wins that almost automatically facilitate and boost the creation of other good habits. But there were other philosophies at work there that Christopher was not yet aware of. The first week with half the food on his plate was brutal. He would finish eating and just stare at the stove, wanting more. His brain was screaming, "You're still hungry, eat more." But then he remembered Dr. Yamamoto's words. Wait 20 minutes. If you're still hungry, eat more. Do you know how many times in 3 weeks he went back to eat more after 20 minutes? Twice. Because his body wasn't hungry. It was just spoiled. Dr. Yamamoto was teaching him about Hara Hachi Bu without mentioning the name yet. It's the Okinawan principle of eating until you're 80% full. The idea is that your stomach takes 20 minutes to signal to your brain that it's satisfied. If you fill your plate and eat quickly, you go past that point and only realize it when you have a stomachache. At the next appointment, Christopher had lost 3 kilos. It's not about the weight, Dr. Yamamoto said. It's about the direction. You're going in the right direction. For the first time in 40 years, your body is moving where you want it to go. I feel different, Christopher admitted. Not just lighter. I feel in control. Because you are. Now, the next step. You're going to add movement, but not in the way you're thinking. No, you'll walk from your door to the mailbox and back every day in the morning after your water, before getting in the car for work. Christopher laughed. Doctor, the mailbox is 20 meters from my door. This isn't exercise. It's not about exercise. It's about creating the habit of movement. Your body has forgotten that it was made to move. You're going to remind it gently. 20 meters today. Next week, maybe you'll want to go to the corner. But today, just to the mailbox. Christopher did what the doctor told him to. Water in the morning, half his food. Walk to the mailbox. On the 3rd day of the walk, his 7-year-old daughter saw him leaving. "Dad, can I come with you?" They walked together to the mailbox. She held his hand. She talked a little about school and her best friend, things she never told him because her father was always too tired to talk. When they returned, she asked, "Can we do this every day?" The following week, Christopher started going to the corner store, not because the doctor told him to, because his daughter wanted him to. And for the first time in years, he succeeded. Without shortness of breath, without back pain, he could do it. By the end of the second month, he had lost 8 kilos. But the real change wasn't on the scale. It was in the mirror. Not in the body he saw, but in his eyes. There was a light there that hadn't been there before. During the consultation, Dr. Yamamoto asked, "Christopher, tell me something. Why are you doing all this?" "To lose weight." "No. Why are you really doing this? What is the underlying reason?" Christopher thought. For the first time, he really thought, I want to see my children grow up. I want to walk my daughter down the aisle someday. I want to have quality time with my wife. I want to feel worthy of myself." Dr. Yamamoto nodded. "That's your ikigai, your reason for living. The Japanese believe that everyone has an ikigai, a purpose. Your ikigai isn't about losing weight. It's about being present for your family. Weight is just the obstacle between you and your purpose." That changed everything. Because now when Christopher didn't want to wake up early, he didn't think about water or dieting. He thought about his daughter holding his hand. When he wanted to fill his plate, he didn't think about calories. He thought about walking her down the aisle. Purpose is not motivation. Motivation fades. Purpose is fuel that never runs out. Chapter 4. The First Fall. 3 months later, Christopher had lost 14 kilos. His clothes started to feel loose. Co-workers asked what he was doing. "Just a few minor adjustments," he replied. But then came Thanksgiving Day. You know how it is. A table full of food: turkey, mashed potatoes, pumpkin pie, pecan pie. The whole family gathered, everyone serving enormous plates, and Christopher tried to fit half of it on his plate. His mother asked, "Is that all? Are you sick?" The brother-in-law, "Dude, it's Thanksgiving. Forget the diet for a day." Social pressure is a silent killer of change. Everyone wants you to go back to being who you were because your transformation makes them uncomfortable about who they are. Christopher gave in. He filled his plate. He ate until he couldn't eat anymore. He felt that horrible sensation of being too full, of having failed. That night he looked in the mirror and thought, "Damn it, I broke the streak. I'm going to give up like I always do." The next morning he didn't want to drink water. He didn't want to walk. The old pattern of "since I've already failed, there's nothing I can do" was returning. But then he remembered something Dr. Yamamoto had said that he hadn't understood at the time. You will fail. And when that happens, you will find out if you have truly changed. He picked up his cell phone and texted the doctor. "Doctor, I ate too much yesterday. I ruined everything. I don't know if I can go on." The reply came in 2 minutes. "Come to the office this afternoon." Christopher sat in his usual chair, expecting a scolding.